Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live here this morning. And hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend as we get into a little bit of teaching again this morning. So if you can hear me, and I'll wait a few minutes here as people come on. Hope you're doing well. Nativity, good morning to you. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit here. I feel like I'm sideways. John, Andrea, how are you this morning? And Sarah from Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Good to have you on. Lee, how are you this morning? Diane and Sherry and Jerry. Jerry and Andrea are from Nouveau Brunswick. Francis, good morning. And Lorraine from BC. Now, is that behind Chelmsford or British Columbia? Which should be 5:30 in the morning there, right? Morris from North Bay. Jeanette, good morning to you. Hope you're having a great day thus far. Nick, our staff is on with us this morning. Another Nicole and Elizabeth from Mississauga. Bernice is watching. Yolande, bonjour. How are you? Diane, Pronovo, good to have you on with us this morning. From Blaisville, Pauline, how are you? Esther from Miami. Esther, how you doing? Good to have you on with us this morning. And Brenda and Beth and Jake and Lori from Thunder Bay. So guys, we get them from Anne Marie from Michigan. And Pasadena, California. Faye, how are you? And Nellie and Lorraine. Guys, great. Maria, longtime listener and watcher of the videos. Mahumada from Bangladesh. My word. Okay, guys, I got to get going here. It will never end. Carmen, I have to say hello. Okay, and Keith, good morning to you. We're going to talk about telomeres this morning, okay? Study come out on telomeres. Now, I got to tell you something, okay? A friend asked me, who's writing a book, asked me to do an introduction to a chapter on the cell, okay? And as I was writing this, I was thinking about what do we know today at the cellular level that we didn't know before. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, when you think about, I was looking at the history of microscopes, okay? Because I spent a lot of my lifetime really looking into a microscope. And I was thinking of, I think it was back in the 1600s that officially the microscope was invented, and a little lens, and, it's amazing, right? How far science has come. And the reason is because the more powerful the microscope, the more we see, right? I remember, reading about, if you looked in a telescope 100 years ago, they thought there was 200 stars. Now they know there's at least 6 trillion. Because the bigger the microscope they get, the more they see. I spent some time at the Smithsonian, I guess it's got to be 6-7 years ago now, in Washington, D.C. I was fascinated by the telescope and what they could see. But the microscope is the same thing, guys. It's just looking at detail inside the body, and they can get, now with the invention of the electron microscope, guys, the electron microscope was developed in 1965, but I'll tell you, even today, we know more about the human cell. Now, you got trillions of cells. And you know how often we've talked about bacteria. You got trillions of bacteria. things that you never probably even think of. And as I was writing the introduction to this book on the cell, I was talking about telomeres. Honestly, I never knew telomeres existed. What are they? Well, I like illustrations. I hope you do. So telomeres, okay, so what I brought out here, see, this is a candle, right? And you see the little wicks? Okay, you see those? Those are little wicks in the candle. That's what telomeres are like. They're little wick-like substances on your chromosomes. Part of your DNA. And it's fascinating because the longer your telomeres, the healthier you are. So just like these little wicks, the more they, the longer they are, the more the candle's going to burn, right? Well, that's the same. They discovered this in the human cell. You got telomeres. You have little wick-like substances on your DNA. As I was writing this, I was suggesting that if Darwin knew about telomeres, well, he didn't even know about DNA. He would have repented in sackcloth and ashes about evolution. I mean, it's so complex, it's unbelievable. Really, it's so complex. And what I want to talk to you about this morning, well, telomeres for sure, because I want to show you how to lengthen your wicks. You can lengthen your wick. Now, as we get older, obviously, our wicks, our little telomeres shorten. They've shown that. They can look at the microscope behind me here. Okay, that's 3200 power there. Now you can't, with 3200 power, you can't see wicks. You can't see your telomeres. You need something even more powerful than that. Incredible. But all I'm saying is, we can tell a lot by telomeres. Those little wicks inside your DNA. Now, I have often talked to you about mitochondria. Now, we knew about the mitochondria, way back in the 60s and the 70s about the cell. Little battery packs within your cells. Those are very important. Especially, and I'm going to talk about this week, I think, because there's a new study out on COVID, and it's interesting how it's affecting for some people their mitochondria. But I'll leave that, okay? Mitochondria, big words, battery packs within the cell. They produce ATP and energy from the food you eat. So your little battery packs take the food you eat and they use it as ATP. And I'm going to talk to you about what foods give you a higher octane ATP, because that's what it is. It's fuel. But let's focus in on the telomeres this morning, okay? Just because it's so fascinating. And the research is showing that you can change those. You can change them. Telomeres shorten, little wicks. Wicks shorten with a bad diet. Food, food, food. Wicks shorten with a bad diet. Oh, by the way, here's what they're showing too about telomeres. The shorter your telomeres, not only goes with aging, but also with cancer. You see, this is where really the research was coming out on cancer and how to predict cancer. And they're starting to look at these telomeres to predict cancer, because the shorter they are, the more chance you have of cancer. Now, I've talked about this a lot, but I got to repeat it. You see the little tip of the ballpoint pen here? Just the tip of it. See it? That little tip takes 5 years. So medicine is always looking for clues. And I always say they're usually looking in the wrong places. Well, because today's medicine mostly is waiting till you get cancer, and then they go into their treatment plan, their protocol for cancer. Don't wait. That's why it's so big on changing your diet. The things, you can't control everything in your life. You know, you can't. Some people got bad genetics. Do you know in my family I got bad genetics? I do. Why am I not discouraged about that? Because, well, you know what? You see this face? I look like my father. He had diabetes. My grandfather had diabetes. So we got diabetes in our family coming out our both ears. We got cancer in our family coming out both ears. Bad genetics. But I'm here to tell you, you can override your genetics, just like you can change the wicks inside of your DNA. Change fuels. Change fuels. So number one thing you should do, instead of burning crappy carbs, which shorten your telomeres, it's conclusive, guys. We're not guessing. We know it. But nobody's talking about it. And this is why in my new book, I talked about the link to food, crappy carbs, sugars, and cancer, and cardio, and diabetes, obviously, Alzheimer's, autoimmune, and your immune system. I talked about all 6 of those things in the book. And I show exactly how it happens. The link. One of the things I talk about in the book is telomeres. You can change them. It's amazing. It's never too late. It's never too late. Rapidly, your body will change. 30 days, I've proven it. I had to prove it to myself, first of all. In the clinic, I had to prove it to myself that this works. And so when I get some people, doc, I know, but it works. I can lengthen your telomeres. Well, you can do it with food. Change fuels. Your cells. Even the little protective tips on your chromosomes called telomeres will change in 30 days. Isn't that amazing? Friend, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Your body has an amazing capacity to regenerate itself. That's why implore people, start with your diet. Start with your diet. Now, the other thing that they showed, okay, with telomeres, it really responds, these things really respond to the amount of insulin you're secreting. Insulin, it's really a death hormone. And I wrote that book years ago, Tony Jr. and I. Serial killers. 2 hormones that want you dead. One of them was insulin. The other one was cortisol. I should have said 3 because the other one is estrogen. But anyway, for today's topic, we'll stick to insulin. This is why we are big fans of intermittent fasting. You can do that in a lot of ways. A lot of people are scared of the word fasting because they think of starvation. But that's not, and you know, hey, fasting has been around as long as the Bible has been around. Okay, read the Old Testament. They talk about fasting. So fasting is nothing new. But therapeutically, it's relatively new, therapeutically. There was reasons to do it, religious reasons to fast. Jesus talked about it. But therapeutically, fasting is good for you. Now, you don't have to, listen, intermittent fasting is 2 things. One, it's trying to keep your windows of eating, meaning that if you start eating at, like this morning for me, okay? Yesterday I intermittent fasted. So I stopped eating the night before at, what time was it? Saturday. About 5 o'clock. It was early. And if you go to, I didn't eat yesterday morning. I had coffee. Because if I can't have coffee, I'm not fasting. Got it? Coffee doesn't break your fast. Put a little bit of cream if you want. I drink my coffee black. You take a little cream. You're not really breaking your fast, okay? You're not. So don't worry about that. Technically, you are, but you're not. Because, anyway, I'll talk about that in a second. So, but this morning, guess what I had? Bacon and eggs. The king's breakfast. Right? But you can, like, so now let's say, okay, it was earlier than 8, but let's say 8, okay? Just for the sake of talking about windows of eating. So if I start eating at 8, and my last meal will be at supper time, let's say 6 o'clock, finished. Well, that's a 12-hour eating period. Right? Or is 8 to 8? 10-hour eating period. Right? So all I'm saying is, just remember that when you eat within periods of time, that's called an eating window. Now, you're not eating every second of that. So don't get that mixed up with you're always eating. But the reason that we talk about eating windows is because when you eat, you need insulin. Now, if you eat the right things, but let's say you have fruit in the morning, or the breakfast of champions that some people call it oatmeal. Well, it's not really, because you need an enormous amount of insulin. Well, insulin's job is to take sugar and store it, but it works very hard depending on what you eat. So if you eat at, let's say, 8 o'clock, and then you have a little snack at 10, and you eat it, you have your lunch at noon, and then maybe a little snack, and then you eat again at 6 o'clock, insulin never got a break. It worked all day. So intermittent fasting is when you stop eating. And if you can, you got to go, really, to get a good benefit from intermittent fasting, you got to go past 12 hours. 12 hours is the minimum of not eating at all. So 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, that's 12, right? And then if you can go to 8 o'clock, well, that's 14 hours. Better. If you can go to noon, that's 18 hours, right? So all I'm saying is, the longer you can go, and you don't have, look, any kind of intermittent fasting is going to be good for you. It changes your telomeres. It's one of the things they found with intermittent fasting. It actually helps, because what does insulin do? Insulin is an inflammatory hormone. In this day and age, we live in a world of insulin because of the amount of sugars we're eating. Oh, Dr. Martin, I didn't eat sugars. Yes, you do. You eat yogurt, you eating sugar. You're eating oatmeal, you're eating sugar. Big time. Oh, I have a banana, doc. 6 teaspoons of sugar. Is a banana better than a chocolate bar? Yeah, but just slightly. Because it's all on how much insulin you need. So when you do intermittent fasting, and remember, this is so wonderful, that the reset is fasting without fasting. If you eat eggs, meat, cheese, you're fasting without fasting. It will lengthen your telomeres. It'll make your wicks longer. How do you like to have longer wicks? You won't age as fast. You're going to decrease your risk of cancer, because telomeres give us a real clue about cancer. Because what do you think cancer is? Think about it. It's the abnormal division of your cells rapidly. Your cells are always dividing and multiplying. But when it becomes abnormal, that's cancer, guys. You don't see it because you're not looking under a microscope to look at it. But that's what's happening. By the way, it's happening inside your body even today as we speak, to you and to me. This is why I'm really big on protecting yourself. Don't feed cancer. It needs sugar. If you don't believe me, go and get a PET scan. Not for your pets. It's a cancer scan. Specifically. You got cancer in your brain? A PET scan will show exactly where it is. You got cancer in your organs? It'll show it. You know how you do it? They give you a cup of radioactive sugar and they make you drink it. And they put you in the machine, and if you have cancer, you light up like a Christmas tree. It bugs me when nutritionists, dietitians, whatever, they talk about, Dr. Martin, you and your sugar. It's poison. We live in a different world. You have to lower your insulin in order to lengthen your wicks. And you lower your insulin when you stop eating crappy carbohydrates. You see, I put carbohydrates, crappy carbs, in the same category as sugar. You know what? Because a piece of bread is going to be sugar in 5 seconds. Oh, Dr. Martin, it's whole wheat. I don't care. Whole wheat, whole sugar. It'll be sugar in 5 seconds. It's ancient grain bread. I don't care. And because we're up to 200 pounds of sugar a year, and even worse, we changed the sugar. It ain't sugar that they were consuming 100 years ago. It's high fructose corn syrup. And they give it 90, we figured it out, 92 different names. They hide it. Oh, it's cane sugar, Dr. Martin. It's not good. It ain't good. It's made in a lab. It's made in a lab. Anyways. So, when you're doing intermittent fasting or fasting without fasting, isn't that beautiful? You can fast without fasting. Because when I had my bacon and eggs this morning, you know how much insulin I used? Not much. My pancreas was still sleeping while I was eating. Because I ate bacon and eggs. No toast. Oh, Dr. Martin, what am I going to dip my eggs in? Well, pretend. I told you that story, didn't I? One of my patients, I was just dying because he called me. He said, Doc, I can't have eggs without toast. I said, pretend. And he called me a week later because he was a diabetic. I said, look, you can't have any more toast. Those days are over. Stop. I said, you're on the Titanic. You're going to hit the iceberg. Well, I said, you already hit it. Get into the lifeboat. And he said, well, I can't eat eggs without toast. I said, pretend. And he called me a week later and he said, Doc, I had my eggs this morning and I was pretending I was dipping them. I said, you'll get used to it. You form a habit in 3 weeks. You form a habit in 3 weeks. Oh, Dr. Martin, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Change fuels. Change fuels, guys. So when you fast without fasting, or you do intermittent fasting, you can do both, by the way. A lot of people, when they're eating nutrient-dense food, when you're eating nutrient-dense food, your cells, they change fuels. They're burning rocket fuel. And rocket fuel, you're not going to get the, oh, I'm starving. You know, you have breakfast and then, oh, I'm hungry again. Why do you think we see so much hypoglycemia? Low blood sugar. It's because of too much insulin. Low blood sugar and high blood sugar are two sides of a coin. They're directly related to each other. Why? The problem is insulin. I remember in school in the 1970s, there was a big argument in the medical field about hypoglycemia. Oh, it can't. There's no such thing as hypoglycemia. I said, you want to bet? Big time. Lengthen your wicks. Lengthen your wicks. Man, it's fascinating. Change your DNA. It won't change your personality, but it'll change at the cellular level. That's what you want to aim at that, guys. You want to aim at that. That's why food is so important. That's why I'm so passionate. That's why I'm so passionate. So important, isn't it? Change your wicks. Lengthen them. Yeah, we're going to age. You can't stop all of it. You just can't. But you can help. It's amazing. The testimonies. You know, and ladies, listen, you know I love you. So let me just say this, okay? Because most of you, not all of you, but most women will do the reset because they're for weight loss. I get it. I understand it. 100%. I've been doing this so long. My grandchildren think I was born in the days of Noah, okay? Grandpa, you got such stories to tell all the time. Were you there when they built the ark? Well, I'm not that old, but I've been in practice for a long time, 46 years. And one thing I know about, you know what? Ask me any diet. I'll give you the Cole's Notes version of it. I know where they're coming from. Most of them are calories. And not all calories are the same. I showed you that the other day when we talked about peanut butter. Vitamin P. They're not all the same. Even though the label is very similar between the hydrogenated oil, what makes it different is the hydrogenated oil and the icing sugar, which just is another name for high fructose corn syrup. You put that in, and even though it only shows, it's almost very similar, the same amount of fat, but it's the sugar, yet it's the amount of insulin you secrete. That's the huge difference. So when you're eating the right foods, and if you can, even to do intermittent fasting with the fasting without fasting, you're going to get a double whammo. And a lot of people find it, once they're on the reset, they find that they're cravings. But, you know, the ladies, they want to do the reset because they want to lose weight. I get that. But understand, ladies, hormones are a big factor. You're going to help that. You're going to lower inflammation. You're going to lengthen your wicks, your telomeres. You're emptying your liver. You're regenerating your pancreas. I know you didn't lose as much weight as your husband. And you hate all men. There's a channel on TV, my wife calls it the Hate All Men channel. I think it's called the Women's Network, right? I know, we're different. We come from another planet. So, the take-home point this morning. Change fuels. Change fuels. You lengthen your wicks. The candle's gonna burn a lot longer. You're gonna burn fuel off that candle a lot longer with longer wicks. They can go from here to there. Isn't that incredible what your body can do? When you change fuels. Okay, that's our little teaching today. Hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, we got a couple of things I want to deal with, so I'm not sure which one. Like I said, there's a new study out on COVID that I want to bring to you this week. We'll touch it. The other one is, let me just look. I made some notes on it this morning. It was kind of one came out about cataracts. Interesting. I'll maybe do that this week. And then one about putting on weight. I got to go over this with you. It's the chipmunk story. Okay? I'm going to talk about that this week. I call it the chipmunk story. I'll tell you what that is. Okay? So, love you guys if you can. If you are not a member of our private Facebook group, please join. If you can rewatch this, send it to your friends, invite them on their smartphone or whatever to listen to the podcast. These are made into podcasts. Brandy cleans them up a little bit and makes them into podcasts. So we appreciate that. And if you could leave us a review even on the podcast, that helps a lot. It gets the message out, guys. Facebook it gets the message out. The more you like it, the more Facebook shows it. It's called their algorithms or something. My son was trying to explain it to his dinosaur father. Dad, that's how Facebook works. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So guys, we love you, and I mean that. Appreciate you tuning in. You regular listeners, we love that, and I appreciate it big time. Okay? So, talk to you soon. God bless you.